Hey everybody, Tony D and Little Joan with the final hot take of the evening, talking about the coming shrinkage. Um, I am old enough to remember the 70's, or at least a little portion of it. I was like eight, nine, 8 or 9, right? Let's see, yeah, 8, 9. It was like mid 70's. 10, 11, 12, up until 1980, I would have been 14. So early teens, preteen. I I remember the 70's, at least some of it. I didn't catch all the nuances, but um, we're headed for a really big shrinkage in the economy. So things are going to happen that you're just not used to. One of them, this is I called up a picture of gas lines, right? What happened in the 70's? There was a big shortage of gas. There was a big fight with OPEC, and this is back when gas was, it was jacked up to like 72 cents a gallon, and people were like, "What?" Um, and the deal was you could only go to the gas station. Everybody took an odd or even day in order to cut down on the lines. So if you had an odd number on your license plate and it was an odd day, you could go. Otherwise, you had to wait to the next day because it was odd, even, odd, even, odd, even, odd, even. And even then, there'd be a big line. So I would get, my mother would drive us, me and my brother, and go get gas. And she'd have to wait in line like forever. And then, of course, because there was a shortage, you would want to fill your tank because you didn't want to have to get back in that line. So you'd buy as much gas as they would allow you to do, which meant that it tended to be that the gas stations would run out of gas. So you could wait in line for like an hour and get there, and they'd just be like, "Sorry, we ran out." Um, this is the kind of thing that's probably coming in the economic shrinkage ahead. So with that, people will become unglued, right? So you can imagine how inconvenient and annoying the odd and even gas line days will be, how people will ignore it, and how other people, I mean, it's the same thing that's happening with the mask, right? People are getting way bent out of shape over the mask. Either you're not wearing a mask, or I'm not wearing a mask, or I don't want to wear a mask, and people are getting into fights about it, and it's slowly starting to snowball. People are getting on each other's nerves about this damn mask thing. It's because some people, they've been like me. I've been following this since the beginning. So I know that if you don't have a mask, it's not the end of the world, especially if I'm 6 feet away, as long as you're not showing any symptoms and we're not, breathing the same air, essentially. If I'm a good distance away, I'm probably fine. Probably fine. Right? As long as I wash my hands, if I wear my own mask, I'll be fine. People now, some people, not all people, but some people, the weak people, they can't take it. They can't take it. They feel a loss of control when they see somebody without a mask. And then, you know, I've seen at work Karens complaining about the mask situation in our establishment. I don't want to say where I work. And they complain. Now, so far, the complaints have been very minor and tiny, and my bosses, they're pretty good at sort of deflecting that stuff. But I mean, I know some of you out there probably have a boss who's more like a Karen than anything else, right? Oh my God, someone wasn't wearing a mask, and like they make a big deal about everything. That's going to happen more and more and more. And because the economy's shrinking and people really need their jobs, your job will become different too. Like, some of my coworkers, they're very flippant about their jobs. They don't really need them. Now, maybe somebody's, got a low paying job, they don't really care about it because they have other income, but when you're just getting by and the economy sucks, you can't afford to lose that job. You're going to pretty much do anything to keep it. And So that makes people a lot more stressed, a lot more stressed. And that's kind of the way it was in the 70s and even in the early 80s, really. Now, coming into the 80s, things were kind of like beginning of Trump's term, because it was Reagan, and monetarily we were bouncing back, and it ushered in a bit of a boom. But sorry, I got gum in my mouth. I don't know why I put it in before the video. Sorry. So it mitigated some of that, but there were still a lot of people who, they become traumatized over this kind of stuff. This is, damn it, why do you keep coming up? This is a picture. I don't know if how well you can see it, but it is a picture of a subway in the 70s, and it's covered in graffiti. It's gross. People are, they're in the subway, just kind of minding their own business. This is the era before cell phones, so people are smoking and reading the newspaper as opposed to being on their phones. But the subways in New York in the 70s were a scary place. They didn't have cops roaming it. You were kind of on your own. There were gangs roaming it. Gangs not unlike these guys here. The Warriors. Can you see this? This is the Warriors from the Warriors movie. There they are. But they were actually like those gangs. They had colors. They had all kinds of crazy names, like these guys are Screaming Phantoms, and I can't read that. Something from the Bronx. This was the 70s. They had a lot of gangs. There was a lot of gangs warfare, savage nomads, and this is going to return too. You're going to see the rise of street gangs again, because with no money, people don't have anything to do. And in the 70s, these New York gangs, they would hang out in gutted tenements, and essentially they'd be looking for trouble because they had no money, they got no job, they got no stake in the local economy. And a lot of these Antifa people remind me of that. Now, a lot of the Antifa people do have money. They come from okay families, but some of those families are not okay. They just don't know it yet. Their future is bleak. When the economy starts to really hurt people, there's going to be a lot of people out of work. Some of these Antifa idiots will find themselves, oh my God, I got to get a job and help my family. Like, that realization's going to hit them like a ton of bricks. Because their family's losing their house, and things get really tight really fast, and you get really stressed out. When I was a substitute teacher, I had a kid in my class who claimed, I don't know if he was telling the truth, but he was pretty stressed out. I asked him, why are you so angry? Because he was making a lot of trouble in my class, and he said, because my dad lost his job and we're losing our house. To which I said, that's not my fault. But that didn't help things. He was stressed out, if it was true. He might have been acting. So you're going to see more and more of that. You're going to see people, and when they have a bleak future, when they have no money and they don't see any way out, they join a street gang because the gang gives them a sense of identity and, gives them some money. Because they commit petty theft, they extort people. That was easier back in the 70s. And they would commit crimes. They'd break into cars and steal radios and, things like that. The Antifa guys are already at that level of breaking into windows and stealing stuff. Although they have a different justification, right? These street gang guys, they would do it just for the thrill and partly for the money. Some of them were hardened criminals, some of them weren't, some of them got out of the life. A lot of them died because there'd be gang fights, although back then there wasn't so many guns, but it was more knives and other weapons, but there were some guns in the mix and people died. And then that eventually gave way to the 80s, and the drug gangs became more violent. These Antifa guys and people like them, their justification is going to be, well, we're going to rob from the rich, and we're poor. We're going to redistribute wealth forcefully. That's going to be their justification. And some of these guys may turn into hardened criminals. I mean, you do 5 years in a federal pen, and you're relatively young when you go in, that can mess you up real good. And so this is the times ahead, unfortunately, unless something turns this economy around in a big way. So, brace yourself. You may be doing more work. You may have to reduce your lifestyle. You may have to cut back on all the things that you enjoy now, and really think about, am I wasting my money here? So, just something to think about in the days ahead. Now I'm in my mid-50s, so I've seen this before. I'll struggle through it and hopefully come out the other end better in time for some renaissance, I hope. But who knows, after Trump has served the next 4 years, if he's still struggling with the economy, the next guy may not even be as good as him trying to pull things together, and who knows what all that debt's going to do to the economy too. So, I'm not trying to be a downer. I think if you're prepared, it's not the end of the world, an economic downturn. There's more crime, and but there's, at the same time, there's some upsides to it. There's more freedom. Tends to be more freedom because, with the lack of cops, you'll be able to kind of do what you want. You just have to watch yourself a lot more out there. So watch yourself out there. The 70's may be making a comeback.